Hi, it's Dr. Phil Thomas again, and this is just the next in a series of videos about how I feel people like you and me are able to take control of our disease, i.e. alcoholism, and make a massive difference for our own lives. Like any chronic, progressive, proper, potentially fatal medical disease, before we can really start to believe in the treatment, we have to believe in the disease itself. And for generations, we've been told that our alcoholism is in fact just us being weak-willed, not worthy, pathetic members of the community, singularly ill-deserved of medical attention and the attempts of drug companies to help us. This is entirely wrong. There is now developing, I admit that, developing excellent scientific evidence that we do suffer from a proper, physical, chronic, progressive, potentially fatal medical disease. And this arises in two ways, in my opinion. And in this video, I hope to explain the first paramount way. To put it simply, and we may well have been born with this, I suspect so, people like you and me have bits, just tiny bits, but bits of our brains that just aren't wired like other people's. I want very briefly to talk about neurotransmitters. Now don't all go to sleep. It will be brief and I hope pretty simple. The way your nervous system works is that electrical impulses pass down your nerve fibers, and in order to pass the message on to the next nerve fiber, or often hundreds of fibers, if not thousands, a tiny amount of a chemical needs to be squirted from one nerve fiber to the other. This chemical is a neurotransmitter, and there are hundreds of them, probably thousands, and each has its own effect on specific nerve cells to do specific things. Some of them excite the nerve cell in a way that makes it want to make something happen quicker and better. Others slow the process down, and they act one against the other to make the system work properly. In people like you and me, it seems that several of these neurotransmitter systems related to neurotransmitters such as dopamine, glutamate, and importantly one called GABA B don't function properly. Now GABA B is there to calm the system down. It slows everything down so that it doesn't run out of control and set off some kind of forest fire. So if scientists could come up with a drug that mimicked gamma B in people such as you and me, where our gamma B doesn't work quite so well, then our systems would be more in control. Now, there are two parts of the nervous system, tiny little bits of your brain, tiny little things, called the amygdala and the insula. Now, for the sake of this video, I can't go into too much detail, but essentially, the amygdala is known as the pleasure center. It thrives on nice things. And if there isn't GABA B there to calm it down and relax it, then when you take substances that stimulate this system, you get a disproportionate positive, if that's the right word, benefit, like you and me do when we take alcohol. Consequently, if a drug could be found that mimicked GABA B, our system might not get so fired up by things like alcohol. And by a relative fluke, a drug that has been used for well over half a century for other reasons, such as multiple sclerosis, spinal cord injuries, to treat the spasms that arise in the muscles. This drug is Baclofen, is actually the only prescribable drug that acts as a mimic for GABA B. It's the only one. So by taking it, it seems that we are able to firstly reduce the positive effects of taking alcohol, and just as importantly, reduce the negative effects of not taking it when we're already addicted, i.e. the cravings of withdrawal. So at the end of this first video, I want you to start to understand that if you suffer from an alcohol problem, you suffer from a chronic, progressive, proper, physical, potentially fatal medical disease that can now potentially be treated in many patients, not all, I accept not all, by something that mimics gamma B, and that drug is Baclofen. And in the next video, I'll explain to you why becoming an alcoholic, if you have this brain disorder, is not only inevitable, but entirely inevitable. Thanks. Speak to you soon.